Time for us now to continue with our conversations around sport, and we are joined by Michael Kwambo. He's a communications consultant and he's won the Kenya Cup 3 times. So we're going to be talking about rugby. Kenya Sevens in Dubai. They finished 6th overall in that leg of the World Rugby 7 Series. And good morning to you, Michael. And good morning. Well, Michael, let's now move straight. First of all, your overall assessment of Kenya Sevens. After their 2 outings in Dubai for the first and second leg of this season's World Rugby 7 Series.
Well, I think the team acquitted themselves rather well in the absence of, now I'd say retired from the 7th team, the likes of Collins Injera and Andrew Amonde, who are no longer part of the squad. They acquitted themselves well, but I still feel there's 1 or 2 areas of improvement. Decision making was evidenced, last weekend, Africa, and we saw it also in the pool stages. So if we can have players who can be able to read the game and just lift it to the next. So far so good, because also when you look at it, Dubai has not always been a good hunting ground for Kenya. Rarely does Kenya. So decent performance from the team.
Over the 2 weekends, the Kenyan team, everyone would say, for example, let's take a look at the opening leg. Playing against the US, they had Spain, they had up quarterfinals. What was it from a loss to a draw to a win that kept changing on day 1, Dubai weekend 1?
Again, remember saying decision making. It was the fine margins, because when it came down to competing, the Kenyan team was as competitive as their opponents. You could see it from the margins of defeat, very narrow margins, but just having that extra to actually kill the games is what was lacking. I think that is the ball to Alvin Marube to score, and they lost some minutes off the clock to get over those little niggles. I think it's more of a mental thing. Then they should be able to compete with the best in the world.
That happened. I will call it. Let me just call it 2 different scenarios. Even as we take a look at some of the Kenya Cup matches. Michael, let's talk about this scenario where Kenya, when they played South Africa in the Cup quarterfinal on Saturday, the first half was one way, but the second half turned out to be what they are going on to win against, and convincingly so, against the United States before that close margin game with Great Britain in the 5th place final. What was it on day 2 that on Saturday that was different from the team that we've seen a week ago?
Remember, having been in this kind of scenarios, you know that when you face an opponent and even though they beat you, you always know that there are some chinks in their armor. So you keep exploiting those chinks. For example, we saw the Kenyans being able to get 3 tries, have been able to score 3 tries against the South African. So I believe was against or an inexperienced team, because it had everybody. But again, remember what you're talking about, the fine margins. They were able to exploit them and know that these guys are beatable. So once they got going, it's that thing of once you get your head into somewhere, you're able to sneak in your whole body into a whole scenario. That was the same thing. So it was about taking the chances that came their way.
Good that we've got young players. We've got to a point where we are saying now Billy Odhiambo can be called the veteran of in that side. Who are the players who stood out for you in Dubai over the 2 weekends?
Herman Humwa. You have to give it to Herman Humwa. He was there. He has stepped up in terms of defense, just being in the right place at the right time. In fact, in Dubai, during the first tournament, he was Kenya's top scorer with his all-round effort. Somebody who comes in for an honorable mention is Anthony Omondi. playing in his first tournament and acquitting himself very well. Of course, he has been in the system, missed out on the opportunity to play in North America in September, but actually proving why he's been selected by Innocent Simiyu into the larger Kenya 7 squad. And 2 tries in the game against the USA, that was just reward for him. Definitely in terms of the playmaking role, Kenya is safe because there's him, there's Johnston Olindi. Olindi is another player that we cannot forget about. So in terms of the 3 players who stood out, number 1 without a doubt is Herman Humwa, then Antonio Mondi and Johnston Olindi for me.
Now let us now look at what the improvements that you'd like to see and the challenge that has been put out by the team as per their performances and the need for them to impress Innocent Simiyu when they're in training.
Yeah, well, there's only one area of improvement for me. It's game management. You need to know what to do with the ball when you have it. We've had instances of unnecessary contact, in my opinion. I'm speaking as a fan, as an outsider, but we've had incidences of unnecessary contact, and also you had incidences of us not knowing when to play. Remember, there was a game, I can't remember, it must have been the first leg when Levi Amunga decided to kick the ball out instead of electing to play, and I believe the Kenyans were in a good position to win. So it's all about that game management, the awareness. That for me is the most important thing, because physically, everybody's complaining about the Kenyans, but now can you imagine a physically dominant Kenya side that is also able to manage the games to their advantage? Because once they get that going, they certainly will be a force to reckon with.
Well, Michael Kwambo, with his insights on Kenya 7, and the next legs are going to be on the 24th to the 23rd of January. That is in Malaga, Spain, and it's going to be 4 weeks later, the final weekend of January 2022, and they are going to be in Sevilla. Let us now come back home, and we'll go for ladies first. And last, the other weekend, we saw the introduction of the 15th competition for women, the Kenya Cup for women. What's the KRU idea behind having a 15th competition for women? Because we've seen the Genocide Rugby Festival being played previously.
Well, it's about time. Look, Kenya competes in the 7th and 15th versions of the game. This is just my personal insight as well. So, of what good is it to continue to expose the women to ten-a-side rugby? We don't have any world championships, any Olympic championships for that, and the lack of that competition has actually made it difficult for Kenya to compete on the global and continental scene. The fact that point shows that there is immense potential. Now imagine these women playing regularly. They're not playing every week, but they're playing every 2 or 3 weeks. But imagine them playing a lot more 15s rugby and getting a good grasp of the game. They're definitely going to go places. So with regular competition, I believe it's bound to grow, because you've seen what Kenya women have done with their 7s. The same thing with the women.
Michael, let me slightly interrupt you. We'll come back to the conversation about women's Kenya Cup.
We get back now to a conversation about rugby, and we were in conversation with Michael Kwambo, he's a communications consultant, and Michael was introducing the concept of 15s rugby at Kenya Cup level, competitive for women in this country, after we saw the Kenya Lionesses lose to Colombia by a single point in the pre-qualifiers for their Women's Rugby World Cup repechage. Michael, let's come back to you. And you can tell us what has been the reaction from the women after the first weekend of the Kenya Cup action that we had last weekend, about 1.
Well, the reaction has been good. Many people saying that this is something that is long overdue. Because remember, like we were mentioning earlier, we've seen the women play the 7-a-side and 10-a-side versions of the game, but it's about time we get them to play a version of the game that is competed for locally and internationally, because it is from these versions of the game, 7s and 15s, that you get rankings globally, that you qualify to represent the country and the continent in the various continental and global competitions. So the more we have the women play these games, the more we encourage them. Trust you me, it's going to be something big, maybe not now, but in years to come. So it's been a wonderful reaction from the rugby fraternity.
The results so far and what to expect when the matches are next played on the 18th?
Well, admittedly, there's a gulf between, let's say Mwamba, Impala, and Northern Suburbs are head and shoulders above the rest. So it will be between those three teams. Of course, the other teams competing, we have Racket, we have Homeboys, and we have Nakuru. The results for me, I really will not look much into them. I'll just look at the quality of play as it proceeds. And I'm sure by the end of the competition, which will also end with the Kenya Cup final in March 2022, is going to be great. And I believe, having the women play during this sustained period of time is going to improve the quality of play. And it's a plus for Kenyan rugby, for Kenyan women's rugby, more so in the 15th version of the game.
Okay, now let us now quickly move on to the Kenya Cup proper. And those are some of the pictures on the screen. And this was a match between Menengai Oilers and Impala Saracens over the weekend. The Menengai Oilers winning 28-10. Two results that I want to focus on. First of all, Oilers playing against Impala, 28-10 winners. Then Masinda Muliro winning 22-17 over Homeboy. What's your take on these two sides that still have what we call them, young as far as the Kenya Cup is concerned, given the time being in that?
Well, these are good results, both for Masinde Muliro and for Menengai Oilers. Oilers, remember, got to the Kenya Cup semis last year, last season, but admittedly it was a step too far. But they've certainly shown that the direction that they want to go. They've invested heavily in their playing unit. They've also bolstered up their coaching unit to the likes of Micho Chola, Richmond Uru, Baraza, former Kenya internationals who are working under Gibson Weru, himself a former international. And you can see where they want to go. It's good. It's a young team with a vision, and maybe in another 5-6 years they will be competing for the Kenya Cup. For Masinde Muliro, of course, they have been serving as a feeder team for Kabras Sugar, but they too have decided that they want to have a taste of the pie, and they're doing it with great incentives, such as giving scholarships to worthy students who qualify for university education at Masinde Muliro. So it's something good, and I'd like to see more educational institutions adopt this kind of thing, study and play kind of thing. But it's good in terms of the results. It makes the league competitive, but not to take anything away from Homeboys and Impala, who equally have young squads. So I think, what COVID actually made a number of players retire. So we're seeing a whole regeneration of players, and I think those are just good results. And let's just see how the season goes.
Well, and let's talk about Mwamba losing 38-18 to Strathmore News. That's a result that everyone's asking, where is Mwamba? Are they at a rebuild phase? Strathmore News, what's behind their resurgence?
Well, we'll start with Mwamba. Mwamba, yes, of course, are at a rebuilding stage. They had a squad that featured Felix Otieno as the oldest and most experienced player. Felix Otieno is yet to hit 30. So it just shows you the composition of the team. They, like we said, they are in a rebuild phase. So that is a result that was expected. For Strathmore Leos, again, the backing from the university in terms of just ensuring that the players are well taken care of on and off the pitch is something vital for them. They also got to the Kenya Cup semis last year, working under the guidance of Louis Kisia, former Mwamba player and coach now at Strathmore. They are ambitious and they will be competing for honors. That is the secret behind their resurgence, and so long as they're able to retain their core group of players for the next 3-4 years, they certainly will be back to where they were before, competing with the big boys for the Kenyan title.
Well, finally, what do we look out for in the coming week? Because I know there's can count about 2 more weekends of the Kenya Cup before we resume in January. What are the contests we can look out for?
Well, of course, there's fixtures still yet to come. I just don't have them close to me, but they have been released for the next 2 weeks. But we can expect, of course, some exciting rugby. I believe that we can also start looking forward to some upset results. The Kenya Cup is never short of upsets. But more importantly, on the 18th of December, the second leg of the Women's Kenya Cup continues, and that I think is something that we need to focus on this season. It's one of the key things. Those are the things to look forward to.
Michael Kwambo, he's communications consultant, giving us an insight into the Dubai Sevens and also the Kenya Cup for the men and the women. Thank you very much, Michael. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And next, we shall be talking football. We know that there is no Kenyan club that's going to be in the group phase.
CAF Confederation Cup, Gor Mahia eliminated after a 1-1 draw yesterday, and also Tusker losing to CS Sfaxien, 3-time winners of the CAF Confederation Cup. What's that? The return of the FKF Premier League and the National Leagues, plus also a quick look at what's happening outside there. Coming to that with John Agritiano and Gregory Mulemi.